The broadcast opened with the tension of a storm about to break. Millions of viewers tuned in, expecting another heated exchange of political barbs, but no one foresaw what was about to unfold. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward in her chair, her voice sharp and deliberate, cutting through the chatter of the studio like a blade. "Tonight," she declared, "America deserves to know the truth Donald Trump has hidden for years." Her words landed with the weight of a gavel, silencing both allies and adversaries on the panel. The audience froze, their eyes glued to the screen. For a brief moment, even the host seemed caught off guard, fumbling for the next line before realizing this wasn't ordinary political theater. The studio lights seemed brighter, the cameras zoomed in closer, and the entire nation collectively leaned forward in anticipation. Crockett didn't waste time with build-up. She announced that she had evidence, undeniable and explosive, of a hidden affair that Donald Trump had fought desperately to keep buried. Gasps echoed in the live studio audience. Online, within seconds, the clip was clipped, reposted, and shared across every platform. Twitter hashtags erupted, TikTok videos appeared instantly, and news alerts lit up phones. Viewers who had tuned in casually were now locked in, their hearts pounding as though they were witnesses to history in the making. What gave the moment its power wasn't only the words themselves, but the confidence with which Crockett delivered them. There was no hesitation, no wavering in her tone. She spoke as if daring anyone in the room to challenge her, as if daring the world itself to look away. Her final line of the segment detonated like an explosion. "Donald Trump's secrets are no longer safe, and tonight, the truth comes crashing down." The studio erupted in overlapping voices, shock, disbelief, demands for proof, but the message had already pierced the airwaves. Across living rooms, offices, and bars in every corner of America, viewers were stunned. Melania Trump's name began to trend alongside her husband's within minutes, as speculation spiraled about how deep the betrayal went. Crockett had not yet revealed every detail, but the hook was set. The story had begun, and the entire nation was watching with bated breath. The revelation didn't come out of nowhere. For weeks, the Trump family had been engulfed in chaos after the leaked DNA results of Barron Trump shook both political circles and the broader public. Cable news had been running nonstop coverage, dissecting every angle, while talk shows turned the family's private turmoil into late-night punchlines. The atmosphere was already electrified, a nation divided and restless when Jasmine Crockett stepped into the arena. She knew the timing. With the Trump brand already under siege, she chose her moment with surgical precision. The studio panel was stacked, loyal defenders of Donald, seasoned critics, and analysts eager to grab their slice of the spectacle. On one side sat conservative commentators ready to dismiss any attack as partisan theater. On the other, progressives sharpening their rhetoric for the clash ahead. And at the center of it all, Jasmine Crockett, unflinching, armed with the words that promised to pierce deeper than any talking point. The host tried to frame the discussion around the family scandal, asking if the DNA revelations meant lasting damage for Trump's political future. But Crockett refused to stay within those lines. "This isn't just about DNA," she said firmly. "This is about a pattern of lies, deception, and betrayal that reaches into the very heart of the Trump household." Her eyes locked on the cameras, ensuring the millions at home understood she wasn't delivering gossip. She was issuing a warning. Even before she unveiled specifics, the weight of her claim shifted the room. Conservative pundits scrambled to interject, dismissing her as grandstanding. Yet their interruptions only fed the tension. Viewers online noted how their nervous laughter, their rushed denials, sounded less like confidence and more like fear. Meanwhile, journalists in real time began typing furiously, preparing headlines that hinted at something bigger than the Barron scandal. The clash of voices gave the impression of a storm struggling to break free. Crockett stood in the eye of it, calm yet fierce, building the foundation for her bombshell. And in that foundation, she framed Donald Trump not just as a politician under fire, but as a man whose private sins were now colliding with his public legacy. The studio air grew thick as Jasmine Crockett leaned closer to her microphone. "Let's stop pretending," she began, her tone low but razor sharp. "Donald Trump's hidden affair wasn't just rumor. I have dates, I have names, And I have the timeline. The panel froze. For a second, even the loudest defenders of Trump went silent, caught off guard by the certainty in her voice. Then the eruption came. One conservative strategist snapped back, "This is outrageous slander!" Another shouted, "You're exploiting a family at their lowest moment!" But Crockett didn't flinch. She raised her hand calmly, almost welcoming their outrage as fuel. "If it's slander," she fired back, "then why do I have receipts? Why did his own allies whisper about this for years? Why did the walls of secrecy finally crack now, when the truth can no longer be buried?" The host tried to intervene, but it was too late. The conflict had broken loose. Crockett named the woman involved, not a celebrity, not a public figure, but someone Donald Trump had allegedly met repeatedly during high-profile trips. She laid out the places, the time frames, even citing overlapping travel schedules that matched the affair's narrative. "These aren't accidents," she said with icy precision. "This was deliberate deception, carried out in plain sight, shielded only by power and intimidation." The conservatives on set scrambled. One repeated, "This is a stunt, pure theater." But the audience in the studio gasped audibly, their reaction impossible to spin away. Social media timelines exploded with screenshots, live captions, and frantic commentary. Viewers dissected every word in real time, debating whether Crockett had just crossed the point of no return, or whether she had finally dragged hidden truth into the light. The tension deepened as Crockett's opponents tried to counterattack. One analyst demanded, "Where's your evidence?" She leaned in, her reply swift and cutting. "The evidence will speak for itself. But tonight, America deserves to hear the words Donald Trump never wanted you to hear." The room fell quiet again. For the first time, Trump's defenders seemed cornered, unable to drown out the resonance of her claims. Meanwhile, reports from outside the studio showed headlines flashing across news networks. "Crockett claims Trump affair." Shocking details emerged live on air. Clips of the exchange began trending in dozens of countries within minutes. The conflict was no longer confined to a TV panel. It had spilled into a global spectacle. The tension reached its breaking point. The panelists shouted over one another, the host's voice lost in the chaos, while viewers at home could feel the electricity of a moment spiraling out of control. And then, as Crockett delivered the final blow, the room seemed to stop. "Donald Trump's affair wasn't a rumor, it was a reality," she said, her voice rising above the uproar. "And the person most betrayed by this truth is sitting right beside him in every photo, every rally, every carefully staged appearance. Melania Trump." The words landed like thunder. Cameras immediately cut to Melania, who had been seated in the audience as part of the night's unusual format. Her face drained of color. For a split second, she tried to hold her composure, but the revelation struck too deeply. The audience gasped as her hand trembled, then slipped, and suddenly she collapsed. The studio fell into stunned silence. No shouting, no interruptions, just the collective sound of disbelief. Producers scrambled, medics rushed forward, and the broadcast struggled to decide whether to cut to commercial or stay live. Viewers around the world froze, watching history unfold not as rumor or speculation, but as raw, unfiltered human shock. Clips of the collapse hit social media instantly. The hashtags #MelaniaToWhyICollapse and #TrumpAffair trended within minutes. Some commentators expressed sympathy, others accused Crockett of going too far, but no one could deny the magnitude of what had just happened. It was no longer just about Trump's secrets. It was about the collapse, both literal and symbolic, of the image his family had worked so hard to preserve. Inside the studio, Crockett stood firm, her expression unyielding. One panelist shouted, "Are you proud of yourself?" She didn't hesitate. "I'm proud," she answered, her voice cutting like steel, "that the truth was spoken, no matter the cost. The American people deserve to know who is leading them and what darkness has been hidden from their eyes." The climax wasn't only Melania's collapse. It was the instant recognition across millions of screens that the facade had cracked in real time. Donald Trump's silence in the face of the revelation only deepened the gravity. The camera lingered on the chaos, amplifying the sense that a political empire had been shaken to its core. The aftermath unfolded in waves. While Melania was assisted by staff and escorted off stage, the cameras kept rolling, capturing every flicker of chaos. The studio no longer felt like a debate. It had become the epicenter of a national reckoning. Jasmine Crockett seized the silence that followed. She spoke slowly, deliberately, each word cutting into the stunned quiet. "What we witnessed tonight is not just a scandal," she declared. "It is the truth rising to the surface, no matter how deeply it was buried. Power cannot protect lies forever. Not even the most powerful family in America can escape accountability." The audience erupted, some in applause, others in protest. Viewers at home argued across living rooms and social feeds, torn between outrage and vindication. Supporters of Trump decried the attack as cruel exploitation, while his critics framed it as long overdue exposure. But even those who tried to dismiss Crockett's words could not erase the image of Melania collapsing under the weight of revelation. News anchors scrambled to keep up. Headlines screamed across every network. "Melania collapses on live TV after affair revelation." Commentators debated the moral boundaries of political theater, while late-night hosts sharpened their monologues. The event had already passed into history, replayed endlessly, dissected from every angle, immortalized as the night a hidden truth shattered a public image. Crockett closed with words that would echo long after the cameras shut down. "This is bigger than one family. It's about honesty, integrity, and the future of a country that has been deceived for too long. Tonight proves that the truth cannot be silenced. It will always break through the cracks, no matter how high the walls built to contain it." The credits rolled on a shaken broadcast. Across America, people knew they had just witnessed something irreversible. Whether seen as bravery or cruelty, it was undeniable. The night Jasmine Crockett spoke, the Trump legacy was forever altered.